Hello everybody, Jen with Scrapping Under the Influence. I am here with a brand new project kit for you. So this is what I am calling a holiday chronicle. So not quite a December daily in that you don't have to do, which I mean, I guess a traditional December daily you don't have to do every single day either. However, I've gotten this ready early October so that you have time to get this put together prior to December, prior to starting all of your holiday things, so you very easily could have this finished within a weekend. No problem. This is, I kid you not, the largest project I have ever designed for a single album. I've done some big projects, but like for a single album, this is the biggest one I've ever done. We are using Simple Stories, Simple Vintage Beleive. This collection is beautiful. And the reason I wanted to do it now and do it this way is I've done other December dailies, like constructed them, you know, so on and so forth. And when you're doing it after Christmas in preparation for the next year, I don't know about you guys, but I tend to like get to the next year and go, well, I don't want to use that. You know, I don't want to use that project with that paper anymore because I found another one that I like or whatever. It's, I don't know. I've never, or actually I've lost two of them somewhere where I can't even find the completed albums. So rather than do that, I've got it ready ahead of time for you guys to do, put together, so on and so forth. Your kit comes with everything. You are not having to buy separate cardstock. You are not having to buy, you know, separate elements that should be part of a kit. Everything you need to put this together is in the kit. You will get your acetate for your shakers. You'll get your shaker fill. You will get your ribbon. You will get all of your cardstock, all of your chipboard, all of your matting cardstock, all of the pattern paper and embellishments that you need to finish this project exactly as I have shown it here. Nothing extra to buy, so you're not ordering it, getting it, and going, oh, there's no cardstock, or oh, it takes more cardstock than I was told, or anything like that. It is ready to go as soon as you get it in your hot little hands. So let's take a look at the project. This is 8.5 by 10.5 with a 3.5 inch spine. Got Santa chipboard on the spine here. Got Santa on the back. You absolutely could decorate this and downplay Santa, not a problem. I just really thought the Santa on this one was super cute. So on the front here we do have a shaker. This is set up so that if I've got a piece of cardstock I could show you with, and I go through this in the tutorial, so that your photos will slide back in here behind your shaker. So you still get to use that frame for photos, but you've also got that fun shaker element going on along with it. Your ribbon is included. You've got the red here for your closure, and then we've got green ribbon on the inside for some of our page closers. I somehow, mostly because where this is a Christmas project, it is a, you know, kind of a holiday project, a holiday chronicle project. You are getting your numbers. If you want to go through and number your pages and your photos and whatnot, like a more traditional December daily, I have yet to ever actually use those when I have actually put together a December daily. So, you know, I'm trying to get away from that pressure thinking you need to document every single thing you do all through December. I know personally with us, you know, we'll go and do, you know, something like the first week of December, and then we won't do anything for 2 or 3 days. It's just business as usual. We come home from work and from school and we have dinner and we do homework and we go to bed and whatever. There's nothing going on. There's nothing worth documenting at that point. So that's was kind of my thinking in this. So this one will fit a absolute ton of pictures. So on this front inside cover, this is a belly band. I do not have an insert underneath this because I didn't get them made. You will have enough leftover cardstock to do inserts, okay? Including matting them, like doing, you know, matting strips on them or whatever. You will have enough left. So we've got a 5x7 waterfall on top of that belly band on the front inside cover. And I did fully mat the fronts of each of these pages I didn't mat the backs because, of course, you know, you're going to get your pictures. But I started to say, I got through this entire project with no magnets, which is not normal for me because by the time you load this up with your pictures, some of the elements I have in here, it makes it very hard for the magnets to grip, okay? Especially when there's lots of flaps and things and lots of space for pictures and whatnot, which there is. So rather than do that, we have ribbon closures and we have closures like this. So this is a 6x8 insert. This is matted with the 6x8 paper pad, which is part of the collection or the kit. And then we've got a fold out 6x8 flap. Okay. This just lays flat on there. I've got another insert in here. And then we've got, you know, we've got a couple of journaling spots. We've got a nice pocket there. The other thing that I have included with this kit, and initially I was going to try and use them, you know, as flaps or something in the kit, and decided I really didn't want to do that because they were so pretty. These are the binder inserts for like a snap binder. What I have done is I have cut off on the side here where the holes would have been for the binder, okay? These are a little bit heavier than pattern paper, not quite as, about the same weight as the cardstock, okay? So they're good and heavy, so they work as inserts. But they were so pretty, I didn't want to, you know, have to glue this down somewhere or do something else with it. So these are included. They were just so pretty, I couldn't help myself. So when you get the kit, if you're kind of going, what? That's why. Okay, that's our first page. Second page, we have got another insert that is getting caught apparently. Oh, because there's stuff on the back. Haha, that's why. So we've got another 6x8 insert. And then we've got this. So this opens up and opens up. So you've got a belly band here in the middle that you can still tuck photo mats and things under. You've got plenty of space for pictures all the way around here. You don't have to decorate this side. You could go ahead and use your white matting paper that's included. And then the whole thing is kept shut by this belly band that splits those two. Except I've got something on the back of that that's catching. This belly band that holds this insert and keeps those flaps closed. I just thought that was kind of a cool way to do it. We're going to have another set of cool flaps here in just a second. So we've got a ribbon closure here, another 6x8 flap using that 6x8 paper pad. You're getting the collector's edition, or collector, what did they call it? I think it's the collector's edition for Simple Stories, which has the full 12x12 paper collection with the sticker sheet. It also has page pieces, floral bits, and chipboards. In addition to that, you're getting the chipboard frames, you are getting the ephemera bits, which are like kind of the larger journaling bits like this, and of course your numbers. Okay, so you've got plenty of ephemera, plenty of things you can use. So we've got photo mats here with one of those large journaling spots that's left loose, and then we've got two very large pages here. Perfect for, you can get a cropped 8x10 picture into these pages. Okay, so this is another journaling spot. We've got another pocket back here. So there's that page, and this all closes up and ties. Your green ribbon, of course, is included as well. Go to our next page, we've got another shaker that is also set up where you can slide a picture back here. Did I not do that right? Don't tell me I glued it on the wrong side. No, there it is. Okay, so we can slide another picture down in that frame. This whole thing folds up. You've got a picture spot there, and then we have some more flaps that pull all the way out. Okay, so you've got 4x6 picture spots here, 4x4 here, and then the same on the top. We've got 4x6, and we've got 4x4. As you can see, I love this Santa. The Santa is like everywhere in this book because he is so stinking cute. Another one of our 6x8 photo mats. We've got a little flap here that pops up. We've got a journaling spot there. This is another one of those binder inserts with the holes cut off. You see why I didn't want to do it, you know, mess with them too much because they are so pretty. This is another one of those inserts from the binder. They're just beautiful. But we've got stacked pockets here. And then this one just tucks in here to kind of keep that all closed. Back here we've got another 6x8 photo spot. We've got photo spots here. We've got our tuck spots to hold this closed. And you open it up, you've got more picture spaces, and you've got another nice big belly band back here. Okay, oops. And that's gonna go in there. On this side we've got another 6x8 photo mat. This is the rest of those inserts. And what I did, and you could go back and take your cardstock scraps and your paper scraps and whatnot and add to this. I just tied some of my leftover ribbon very loosely, and you can actually use them and still flip through them because I didn't want to cut this off and ruin this cute little pocket. I didn't want to cut off and ruin part of this one or this tag. So I was like, you know what, let's leave it as is and figure out a way to use it without binder rings or anything like that. So we've got our angled pockets here. This opens up. You've got photo spots. You've got another nice good size pocket here and some more 4x6 photo spots there. You guys, it's been a really long week. My work laptop died. I've had to work off of my craft room computer and not craft, which has been incredibly hard to be in here all day long and not be able to craft. Okay, so we've got another picture mat there. This folds out and out and out. So we've got 3x4, 4x6, and then 6x8. And then we've got another one of our binder inserts with the holes trimmed and a nice good size, and another good sized set of pockets there. Over here, this one is actually another, this is a pocket back behind, but then you've got, you know, your little pocket with the flap right here that you can tuck other pictures into as well. So you've got lots of space for like little tickets and things if you've gone to, like my son and I usually go to Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So I would have tickets, possibly if I do them at will call like I try to do, where we can just save those and tuck those in there. So our last page, we've got some big flaps. I've got 4x6 picture spot, actually 4.5 by 6.5 are these picture spots. I've got another waterfall. This one, I left this piece intact and then just, or not intact, but cut it so that it looks like it's all together. And you've got photo spots under there. This is the last of the binder inserts with the holes cut off. And there's that. And then we have just a nice big pocket on the back here. This is another one of the chipboard frames. This was actually a double frame that I just trimmed off so that it would fit where I wanted it to go. It's open down here to slide a picture in. And then we've got our Santa, of course, again on the back. So that is this entire gigantic project. The kit is available now on my website. It is shipping immediately. There's no waiting for this. And the cutting guide is there as well. If you've got a stockpile of Christmas paper that you want to use up and you want to just go that route, by all means, go right ahead. Otherwise, tutorial starts now. So let's take a look at what is in your kit. So you have the chipboard frames, which you all know are an absolute favorite of mine when it comes to simple stories. You have your number bits if you choose to use those. I typically don't, but, and where this isn't a traditional December daily, then, you know, you might want them. It's absolutely possible to use this as a traditional December daily, but you don't have to. However, these little like holly pieces that are in here, we may end up using those. I'm not sure yet. You have your ephemera pack, and these have a lot of the bigger journaling spots and just larger ephemera pieces without going clear to like the big bits, which are really huge. So that's why you've got those. You've got your 6x8 paper pad, which, as you all know, I absolutely love these things. So we can take a quick flip through that. So of course these are smaller prints of your full-size pages, but then you've got some different ones like this that you don't have in your 12 by 12. Oops, see that with that black and white is really pretty. The tiny tags is probably one of those, well, you probably won't use these, but you would use like this side. And then this, of course, is the smaller version of the large sheet like this. It just doesn't have the little deer down in the bottom corner. Smaller journaling cut-aparts. Really pretty tree page. And then you've got some 3x4 cut-aparts, which I don't typically use the ones out of this. Usually, it just kind of depends. When I'll look at the normal 3x4 cut-aparts and I'll compare it to these and kind of decide which ones I want to use. So you've got 2 sheets of that, and then it just repeats. So you have 2 of each sheet. And then this is the binder inserts. And no, we do not have a binder. In fact, I pulled these out to look at them and then put them back in the package wrong. So we're going to take these out and take a look. Oops. So these are meant for the snap binders. I just thought they were really cool and that we could use these maybe in some different ways. I haven't fully decided what that's going to be yet. So you've got like this big tag with a journaling spot on the back. And I mean, it may end up being something as simple as, covering up the holes and just using this, tucked in a pocket to journal on. You've got this cute little scalloped piece with the tree on it, and then a wet fun on the back. You've got this one with the Santa, and then the red kind of, what's that pattern remind me of? Toile, is that it? That might be it. I honestly don't remember. We've got a calendar page, which I do love this. We will most likely, like I said, do something to kind of get rid of these holes. And then you've got a pretty plaid on the back. You've got a nice big journaling spot here. And then just a pretty back side. A nice big title with a plaid. Another nice journaling spot with that toile print again. I think that is what it's called. My mother has a bunch of fabric like that in her house. I don't know. Cute with the ornaments, and I love this one with the ornaments. And then there is a pocket page in here as well. So I still am not 100% sure what we'll be doing with these, but we will incorporate these somewhere within the album itself. So then you have the Collector's Essential Kit. And this has all 12 papers, along with the page pieces, floral bits, which are really pretty in this. The trees, and then there's some really pretty poinsettias in there. You've got your sticker sheet, which again is a really good one. I love that we've got a little border strip on here. The colors in this are very traditional Christmas colors and very pretty. And then we've got the chipboard stickers, and again, look at this big title. I love this big title. I hadn't actually looked at this yet. So you've got that. So all of that ephemera stuff you can go ahead and set aside, because we won't be doing anything with that right off the bat. Sorry, it was getting ready to fall off the back there. And then of course we have our 12x12 paper collection. So we've got our 4x6 cut aparts with poinsettias. We've got our 4x4 and 2x2 with the 12 print. We've got our 3x4s. And that's what I was going to look at actually, since we're on that page and my papers are popping out of there. So these are different. Help if I'm in frame, huh? So these are different than what's on the 4x4 cut apart sheet. So it's really up to you if you want to use those in here instead of these. That would absolutely work. And then we've got the toile again. And then we've got our journaling cut aparts and the pretty page with the ornaments. We've got our tag sheet. You can probably go ahead and set this one aside because This is not one that we'll use to mat anything with. This will be more just things just tuck in pockets and places. So I'm going to set that one aside as well. We've got the cute page with the deer and the plaid. We've got holly with the kind of collage sheet with all the, vintage looking papers and things. We've got our ledger page with the poinsettias and then more red and white poinsettias on the back. We've got the ticket page. I always love these. With the black toile on the back. We've got poinsettias with a really nice plaid. We've got the really cute Christmas trees with a holly. We have this with the Santa, and I love this one. It's very cute. With the plaid, and then that's, of course, just your cover page, and you don't need that one. Okay, so that's the paper pack. In addition to that, you have extra papers. So we have 2 of the journaling cards. Right off the bat, pull one of those out and set it aside. We've got poinsettias with 4x6 cut apart, same thing. Let's set one of those aside. We've got 2 of this cute page with the deer, with the plaid, the ledger sheet with the poinsettias, the plaid with the big poinsettias, the super cute Santa with the red plaid, and then you've got 2 of each of the solids. So we've got a red plaid with kind of a faded polka dot, tone-on-tone dots that is. We've got a green, not plaid, gingham, you know what I mean, with the polka dots. We've got a brown gingham with the polka dots. We've got a gray gingham with the polka dots. We have a darker green gingham with the polka dots again, and then we have, they're calling this chimney, and it's kind of a more faded black. I really like that, but you have 2 each of the solids as well. So you've got more than enough solids. If you want to, out of the main paper pack, like out of the bundled up paper pack, if you want to pull the 3x4 cut aparts out of this and set it, 3x4s and the 4x4s out of this if you want to, and set all of those aside, that would probably be a good idea. Okay, so I'm going to set all of those aside with the tags, and that's what we've got to then mat with. So we got lots of paper. Plus you will have, and I don't have it pulled out because I haven't, of course, gotten to that point yet, you will also have white 65-pound matting cardstock as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so we're going to actually cut the chipboard for this together. So your covers are going to be 10.5 by 8.5, okay? So the first thing you're going to cut is the 10.5, okay? All right, so when you cut your width, so your 8.5, let's start from the other direction just to make sure I don't actually have the chipboard move on me. Okay, so that's 8.5. This is your 3.5-inch spine, okay? This piece you don't need to hang on to unless you want to. So your second piece, again, you'll go 10.5. And this is the Dolly 550 trimmer. If you've got the desk space for it, I highly recommend it. Alright, so then this piece is also extra. If you want, I know some people will use these to pop things up. I don't ever do that, but it's entirely up to you. So that's your chipboard. I'm going to set that aside. The other tip I will give you And you should do this regardless of what you're making, just in general, with both your solid cardstock, your pattern paper, everything. Okay, you're getting 40 sheets of cardstock in this kit. As you are cutting your pieces and parts for your album, keep your scraps organized. And I will try to note on the cutting guide where I've pulled out of my scrap pile for something, but keep your scraps organized because it will save you a ton of cardstock. It will save you a ton of time. So like every time you go to cut the next piece from the cutting guide, don't go and grab a new sheet of cardstock because you will run out. Okay? Keep your scraps organized because a lot of times I'm going back through those as I'm designing and putting elements into a project to make sure that, you know, you're not ending up with this whole pile of what would have been usable scraps and instead charging you a bunch more, assuming you're going to make a new cut every time you go to cut something. Okay, if that makes sense. So I will try and note on the cutting guide where I pulled from the scrap pile for the base construction. The matting, I know some of you will follow it exactly with the picture, some of you won't. That's entirely how I design my albums, is so that you've got enough of your pattern paper to kind of mat it how you want to. You don't have to follow what I'm doing, okay? Which is also why I don't mat on camera unless there's something like a weird element that you have to do a certain way in order to make it work, okay? So with that, let's get into it. Okay, so let's build our album. So your chipboard is 10.5 by 8.5. You need 2 pieces for that, and then for the spine is 10.5 by 3.5. I have covered the backs of all of these with tape. I'm going to grab my Clearview spacers. However, because of the size of this, you will not use your 1-inch top spacers, okay? What you will need to do, and that's literally just because of the size of the album. So what I'm going to do before I do anything else is I am going to take my cardstock that's going to be for wrapping my spine and my cover pieces. For the spine, it is 6.5 by 12. For the covers, it is 10.5 by 12. So what I'm going to do is score this on it. Help if I'm in frame, huh? Am I zoomed all the way out? I am. Weird. Okay. I'm going to score this at 3/4 of an inch because that's how much space you're going to have top and bottom. Okay. And I'm just going to do that on the 12-inch side. Okay, like so. Now, as I go to put this together, I'm going to put that score line at the bottom so that I can see it. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my normal, we're going to start with our spine. No, we're not. We're going to start with our cover. 1-inch cover spacer. And what I'm going to do is I'll use that, of course, for my side. Oh my God, if I could pick up the right piece of chipboard, it'd help, huh? And then I can visually see this 3/4 inch mark down at the bottom. You can eyeball it. You absolutely don't have to like try and score this to, you know, make sure you can see it. Literally, the way this goes, the way the easy wrap method works, it doesn't matter. It will be fine. So, I've got my 1-inch spacer, my cover spacer, okay, and I am lining it up against my spacer, just visually with my score line down here, and I'm going to do the same thing with my second cover piece. I do have mini spacers coming, but just in case I don't get them prepped, ready to go before this actually goes live. If they are, they will have been an option for you at checkout, or I'm sorry, when you bought your kit. They will have been an add-on option, in which case you will use your 3/4 inch at the top and then your 1 inch on the side. But since I don't have them, well, I don't know. I have my prototype ones ready. But just to not confuse the issue, we're going to just do it this way. Okay. For our cover, our spine, we're going to use our 1.5 inch spine spacer. Again, I've got my 3/4 inch score line down at the bottom here as a visual reference of where I'm lining this up top to bottom. I have my chipboard covered with tape, like always. That one down. Okay. We are finished with spacers. Let me go ahead and move my whatever that thing was, scoreboard. I probably shouldn't be recording this today, I can tell already. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and fold my cardstock around my chipboard just like always. Okay, so there's the spine. There's one cover. Now we are going to go ahead and miter. So I'm going to, just like always, we're just going to miter all the way around to get those corners cut out of our cardstock. Okay, there's one done. And two, almost. And the reason I went with 8.5 by 10.5 is I wanted the pages to be a full 8 by 10. So that if you wanted to, you could absolutely print out 8 by 10 pictures and put them in a couple of different places in the book. I don't know how many of you would actually do that. I don't tend to do that. The biggest I typically print myself is going to be 5 by 7. And I do like having where I can put 5 by 7. So you'll see we've got a lot of 6 by 8 inserts in this. We've got a lot of spots where you can put 5 by 7 pictures if you want to. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my 1/4 inch tape. I'm going to go along the ends on my spine. And if you have made many albums before, you know exactly how to do this, especially if you follow my tutorials, you know how to do this. And then I'm going to, on this side, I'm going to burnish along the edge of my chipboard to really work that cardstock down over that edge. Okay, so on both of these, I'm going to go around all 4 sides. So we've got all of that. So what I'm going to do, grab my glue. So I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of my tape all the way around. And because we've got 2 sides that are shorter, those are the sides we're going to wrap first. Okay. All right, so you're going to take the glue, get the gunk off the end, and we're going to go along the edge of the chipboard and in that little space in the middle. Take your bone folder, push up against the chipboard, fold it over, and burnish it down. I'm going to go to the other short side and do the same thing. And normally I don't really care which side you start on when you're wrapping like this. However, because that is a little bit shorter than normal, that's why I want to do those first. Okay. Do the 2 long sides. Okay. Do our next one. Okay. Sorry, I dropped one of those pieces. If I don't pick him up, my cat decides he wants to try and eat them because he is not smart. He's very sweet. He's not smart. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on this. Along the edge of the chipboard, fold it over, burnish it down. And then on our spine, we're going to do our ends. And I forgot to put tape on our wings on the other side, but we'll do that here in just a second. Come on. Okay. All right, up and over and down. And then again. Okay, I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to grab my tape again. Totally forgot to get my ends there. I'm going right along that outside edge on my wing. Okay, so Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get the backing off of my tape on one side. And I'm going to grab one of my covers. And I'm going to go ahead and put glue in the center area. Do not go all the way to your chipboard. I know it's very tempting to want to do that, but you don't need to go that far over. Okay, so I'm going to use my fingernail at the top because I can see at the bottom if I'm lined up. Okay, and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to pull this across my spine until I feel it slide off that edge. And then once I do, I'll drop this down. Now, that's the whole point of adding that one little piece of tape, because that's going to cause that to grab immediately. Okay, so that when you're moving this before the glue has had a chance to dry, you're not worried about this like slipping and getting crooked. Okay. You absolutely can use just glue if you want to, if you are confident and brave enough in your ability to do so. I, even after probably 400 albums at this point, no, maybe not quite that, maybe 350, I don't trust myself, so I always do it this way. Okay. And down. Okay. Pick it up carefully because it is bigger. And I'm going to come back here. I'm going to burnish all of this down. Okay. Then we have our reinforcement piece. This is not 10 3/8 by 7.5, so it's at least ½ an inch wider than the cardstock you used for your spine. Okay. So that was 6.5, so this needs to be 7.5. You are going to cover in its entirety this piece with tape, because when you go to put this down, and again, if you've been following me for a while, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, in which case you know what you're doing, fast forward, you don't have to hear me explain this again. The reason you want tape is when you put this down, you don't want glue lines, you don't want it to bubble, you want 100% adhesion all the way across. Okay, the only way you're going to get that is with the tape. Okay, so totally sticky. I'm going to just center this up, side to side, top to bottom, drop that down, and then I'm going to burnish it again. Make sure everything's good and stuck. I'm going to fold up the edge of my cover, and I'm going to use my bone folder to work that cardstock into that crease. Okay. Go to the other side, do the same thing again. All right. Now I'm going to turn it over, I'm going to close it, and I'm going to pinch. Okay. And there we go, there's our cover. Ready to go. I can tell right there I did not burnish that well, but that's okay. It will be fine. Okay, so I'm going to move that out of the way, and we'll go ahead and do our hinge and our page bases. So your hinge is going to be 7.5 by 10. I cut this just a hair under 10 inches, like maybe a 1/16 of an inch, nothing crazy. And we are going to have 5/8 of an inch on the gussets. Okay, there are 5 pages total, so we're going to go 1/2 inch, 1 5/8, 2 1/8, 2 5/8. And then what is, I didn't write it down for once. 3 1/4, 3 3/4, 4 1/4, 4 7/8, 5 3/8, 5 7/8, 6 1/2, and 7. Okay, so there's your very, very large hinge. Okay, put that aside. We're going to turn this over. We are going to mark this to make sure. Zoom in just a tiny bit. So X, X, skip, X, X, skip, X, X, skip, X, X, skip, X, X. Now, I literally do this even when I'm not recording and I'm just making a hinge because I'm making a project for myself. I'm making a prototype, which I very rarely do, but I did do with this book. Just because of the size, I didn't want to risk making, you know, big mistakes that I then have to fix and edit out. And just, it's a whole mess. Anyway, because even though I have made hundreds of these, it's still helpful to have that visual of what pieces are getting attached together. Okay, so we're going to turn it sideways. We are going to start folding in the middle. We'll go through and fold everything we need to fold and then come back and glue. All right. So I'm going to start with that middle section. I'm going to lay this over and make sure I am lined up side to side. Okay. And then I'm going to burnish from the middle out. Okay. The reason you want to do that, if you fold it over and you start burnishing from one end and go across, the pressure can cause your score line to go wonky. And that's how you end up with crooked score lines and hinges that don't line up right and all that sort of thing. Okay. So now we're going to fold it back from here. Should have gone over my score lines like one more time because this does not want to fold today. Okay. And again, we're going to burnish from the middle out to the end. Okay. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to grab my little hinge, hold it back towards myself, and again, from the middle out. Okay. So that's our first hinge folded, ready to go. I'm going to turn it back over. We're going to go to our next section over. Again, I'm making sure I'm lined up side to side, and then I'm burnishing from the middle out. Fold it back over, and again, from the middle out. Turn it over, fold it towards yourself again, middle out. Okay. Now we're going to go not to this end, we're going to go to the other side. Okay. Our end ones are going to be the last two that we do. Okay, middle out again, fold it back, middle out, middle out. Turn it over, fold it back, middle out, middle out. Okay, now we can go ahead and do our two ends. Same thing, fold that over, although this time you don't really need to line it up because it's going to line up. Middle out, turn it over, fold it back, middle out, okay? The last one. And again, middle out, middle out. I have always, from day one, struggled with hinges, and when I started doing it this way, where I'm going back and forth, starting in the middle and working my way out, I have had far fewer hinges. In fact, very few hinges that I've had to remake because they were crooked or something was off. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, only now we're going to go at it with the glue. Grabbing a paper towel. So I'm going to go ahead and get my glue in here. And you don't want to get too crazy, like don't get super goopy in here. You don't need a ton. You know your glue. I'm almost always using art glitter. Okay, we're going to fold this over. We're going to make sure we are still lined up. And we are going to burnish from the middle out and the middle out. Okay, fold it back and burnish it again. Let's make sure I get the glue off of the bone folder. And you may have some more still that leaks out. It's fine. Okay, turning it over, folding it back towards myself again, and then same thing again, middle, out. Okay, so there you go. You've got your first little hinge glue. Okay, and then we'll go the same thing again. Go the next one out from the middle. Folding it over. Again, I'm checking to make sure I'm still lined up. Middle out, middle out. Okay, fold it back, middle out, middle out. Turn it over, fold it back, middle out, middle out. Okay, go back, do our next one out. Okay, and again, I'm checking to make sure I'm still lined up side to side. And I got way more glue on this one, didn't I? Okay, fold it back. You can see how that popped up again. That's why we're going back over it again. Because sometimes it happens, it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily a lack of glue or too much glue, it just happens sometimes. Fold it back again and burnish it again. Okay, and we can do our two end pieces. Over, burnish from the middle out, out. With our extra glue. You don't want to accidentally glue your hinge to the table, because I have literally done that before. Not even joking. Okay, so there's 4. And we'll go to our last one. Okay. And again, wipe up our glue. And one more time. So, now if you want to check your hinge, what you're going to do, let's get all of our little hinge pieces up. I'm going to grab it like this so it's nice and flat, and you're just going to measure. At the top, I am at 2.5. At the bottom, I am at 2 and maybe 17/16, or no, what would that be? 9/16, 17/16, seriously? And then in the middle. If you're off by a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch, you'll be fine. If you're off more than that, I would recommend redoing your hinge. Okay? Alright. Oops, wrong direction. Okay. So we do need to mat our spine underneath our hinge. So I am going to grab one of my solids for this. I really want to use that one. I really like this. Chimney gingham is the name of it. Okay. Let's move this, however. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off my branding strip. And then I'm going to cut this to 3 3/8. And then hang on to these because occasionally I end up using like those little tiny pieces. Not always, but it's just, for now, I'll hang on to until I get closer to being finished with the overall project. All right, so we're going to glue that in. Okay. And in like so. We're going to put our spine in. Okay. It feels like it's popping up kind of funny, but maybe not. Maybe I'm imagining things. I'm imagining things. Okay, so I'm going to grab this like so. So I've got the hinges in between my knuckles. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to be generous with the glue, because that will give it time to be able to move it if I don't get it right exactly where I want it when I first set it down. And you want to make sure it's going to hold. Okay, so we've got glue. I'm going to turn it back over. I'm going to grab my outside hinges. I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on here to make sure everything is out flat the way it needs to be. And we're going to have about 1/4 inch on the top and on the bottom, and about 3/8-ish on the sides. If you want to get out your ruler and mark everything and make sure it's like perfectly centered, by all means go right ahead. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to hold it still while I burnish in between my hinges in the gusset, just with my fingers. I'm going to set this aside to dry for a minute while we build our page bases. Okay, for your page bases, did I not cut all of my bases? I did not. You need 5 pieces that are 8 by 10, 5 pieces that are 10.5 by 8.5. I apparently didn't cut one of mine. I only cut 4 instead of 5, and I think that was because I was trying to cut more than one at a time, because, I don't know, I thought that sounded like a good idea. It would explain why some of my scraps, I didn't feel like I had enough 4-inch scraps, because, yeah, I wouldn't have. Okay, 8 by 10. And you will have seen my little PSA at the beginning of this about keeping your scraps organized. It makes it a lot easier at the end, or not at the end, when you're, you know, going through and doing the different page elements and whatnot. It makes it a lot easier. Okay. So 8 by 10. 5 of each. Those do not need scoring. I'm going to set those aside. 8.5 by 10.5 do need scored. So starting with the 8.5 at the top, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. Turn it to the 10.5 inch side and score at 1/2 inch again. Okay, I'm going to do that on all 4. Okay. So now I'm going to take the pieces we scored, we are going to miter. Okay? So I'm going to miter up here. I'm going to miter down here. And then on that corner where the score lines cross, you're going to cut straight across that score line. Okay? You're going to do this on all 5 of your pages, and I am going to stack mine and do them 2 at a time, which I think is how I ended up short 1 set of page bases, because I didn't want to. The dolly can cut through like all 5 sheets, but sometimes it gives you just a slightly kind of raggedy edge, and I didn't want that. So I was doing them in pairs instead. That would be how I missed, and why I had so much paper left over. I was like, I have more paper than I should. Yeah, that's all it was. Okay, so let's go ahead and fold and burnish. We're going to do the same thing we did with the hinge. You're going to burnish from the middle out. This will make sure that your score line stays straight. Okay, so I'm going to do that on all of these. Okay, so I'm starting at the middle, and then when I'm pulling back like that, I'm not putting as much pressure on that until I get back to the middle, and then I'm putting more pressure again. It's just rather than, you know, doing it and picking it up and going back, it's much more kind of natural to go across like that, go back and forth. So, just in case you're wondering. Okay, last one. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I will take a base, I will take a top. I am going to just use my work surface to line up my corners. It's best to do this on the side that does not have the tabs, okay? Because then I can hold them in place. And then attach. Okay. All right. Open that up if you want and burnish it again. And then get my other tab. There is one page base. I am just going to repeat that exact same process on the other ones. Actually going to do it slightly different. I'm going to get my glue on there. Then I'm going to get my edges edges lined up. Now, I'm sure you might be wondering as well, wouldn't it be easier to do it this way? So you're sliding this in, then you're just gluing those down. I don't like to do it that way. Okay? I feel like you end up with slightly, you either have to do a whole bunch of trimming on this piece that doesn't get scored so that it's not hanging over on one side or the other. I find that they tend to be, they tend to like buckle, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it. So I don't like doing it that way. I prefer to put those tabs to the inside, because the other thing too, which we do not have page inserts in this album. If you wanted to add your own, you absolutely could. We do not have any because, quite frankly, I think we've got more than enough space for all of your holiday stuff with what we're actually, going to assemble and whatnot here. So yeah, I don't like doing it that way, but that is a personal choice. If you want to do yours that way, go right ahead. There's our page faces. I'll go ahead and grab our book back. I am going to use my 5/8 inch hinge spacers. You can absolutely do this without. I think this makes it easier. If you're brand new to albums, they can be a little bit tricky, but I like it. And the whole reason I designed these spacers, just in general, was because you don't want your page base going all the way down to the base of your hinge, okay? Because then they don't turn smoothly, they catch. So you want to leave, ideally, about 1/8 of an inch. So these are 1/8 of an inch thick. When you slide these on, like so, it's going to keep your page base spaced 1/8 of an inch off of your the base of your hinge. Okay, you slide them on just like this. I have these in 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, which of course is the most common, 5/8, and 3/4, which I do need to cut more of. Those have sold out, and I never have done a 3/4 inch gusset on a page, but I know there are a lot of you that do. That's the whole reason I made some that way. Was because I'd had enough people request them that it made sense to go ahead and make those. So, got these pushed down. So what we're going to do, I'm going to turn this sideways. Even if you're not using the spacers, go ahead and turn it sideways anyway. Okay? I am going to add glue here, so corners, because we're going to put this onto our hinge with the spacers, and we're going to hold it for a second for the glue in those 4 spots to set up. Okay? So this just hooks down here on our hinge, and I'm just going to hold it. Okay? Because once we get these in, all 5 of these in. We'll slide our spacers out, lay these pages down, and then you'll come back with your glue and your fine tip on your glue and go in between and glue them the rest of the way on. Okay? That's why these are completely assembled. We're not leaving anything open so that you're putting it partway on and then coming back and folding it over and closing it up, because again, that's how you end up with your pages not even. Okay? That's, again, the whole reason that, you know, as soon as I got my hands on a Glowforge, the very, very first thing I did is I'd had this idea for a long time. And I designed my 1/2-inch ones and I cut test examples and it worked so well. I was like, oh, I need to spread the word. I need to sell these. So that's, you know, kind of why I have a website. And like the next logical progression was to do my own kits, because every time I would do a tutorial for a certain design team, I would get asked, is there a kit available? No, she doesn't want to put together kits. So then, you know, people would try to go find, and I would list what I used, and people would try to go find it, and it was out, and it was just incredible. From a designer's standpoint, it was incredibly frustrating to have people going, well, I can't find this. What would you use instead? It was very frustrating. So the more I thought about it, that's why I branched out into kits and added those to my website as well as my tools. So we're just still putting our pages in, giving it time once we have placed it on the hinge, holding it and giving it time to dry. And this too keeps your pages, you know, especially when it's taller ones like this where we're hooking it on the end of that hinge, they're all going to be at the same height. They're all going to be the same amount of space away from the base of your hinge, which is what you want. Okay? Which if they're not, oh my gosh, it's fine. It's, you know, it's handmade. It's never going to be like store-bought perfect, and you don't want it that way. That's why we all make stuff, right? Okay. Next one going on. And hold it. And our last one. And this method of just putting the glue in the corners and just kind of sliding it on and holding it honestly has come from, as I've used these more and more. I used to try to do it all the way across, but then you're trying to reach in here and, you know, squeeze it on and burnish down, and it's just, it's hard to do. This method seems to work best. Okay. All right. So I'm going to let that sit just like this for a minute before I pull these out. So we will be back. Okay. So I've let this sit for a few minutes, like 5 maybe. And we're going to move the spacers out. So all you do is just slide them. I've let it dry for too long, which is entirely possible, but it shouldn't matter. Oh, there we go. It was just tight. Slide that out. Go to my other end. This does not want to loosen up for me tonight. Glue my page to it. I promise I use these all the time. This never happens. this is embarrassing. I do not usually have an issue with this. There it goes. No, it's just that on there that tight. That's all that was. That was not a glue issue. That was just a me issue. And my arthritic hands. Haha. Okay. So, I'm going to start with the first one we put in, which was back here. I'm just going to take my glue and go in that little groove there. I'm going to fold it back this way. I'm going to get the other side. Now, because we did mat our spine, I want to be very careful on this part that I don't accidentally have glue squirt out and get on my pattern paper back here and pull it up, because I have done that more than once. Even doing it like without spacers, I have done that. Double check if I go. This down on top of all my little pieces I cut off and keep sticking to it. Okay, last side. And again, because we're right out here against that pattern paper, I do want to be especially careful to get anything that seeps out wiped up. Particularly before I flip back over and burnish from the other side. Okay, all right. So, cover is built, pages are in. Let's go ahead and, well, before you do anything else, if you are not matting using my pictures as a guide, you want to pick your cover papers so that you don't accidentally get to the end and realize you did not hang on to a cover paper. Ask me how I know. Because I do that more often than you would imagine. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to move this off to the side. And we are going to start with our front inside cover. For the front inside cover, we have a belly band that is 5 by 11.5 with the 11.5 at the top of the scoreboard. You are going to score this at 1/2 inch and 11 inches. Try to actually stay in the right little groove there. And then you have 5 pieces. 5 pieces? Yes, 5 pieces that are 7.5 by 5. So with the 7.5 at the top of the scoreboard, I'm going to score 1/2 inch on each of these because we are doing a waterfall. It is going to sit on top of our belly band. There is not a closure on this waterfall because it really didn't need one. My prototype one tended to lie nice and flat. It was all good. Okay. All right. there's those. And then I'm going to go ahead and do our back inside cover as well. Our back inside cover is 11.5 by 4.5. All this is just a large pocket. We've got enough going on in this album. I don't feel like I put as many pockets in as I normally would have, so we're just doing a nice big pocket on the back inside cover. So with the 11.5 at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch and 11 inches, turn it to the 4.5 inch side, and score at 1/2 inch. Okay. And go ahead and miter. So again, anytime you're doing a pocket, same thing that we did on our page-based pieces, you're going to cut on those corners where the score lines cross. You're going to cut it all the way across. But it's going to take the bulk out of that corner when you fold this over, burnish it, and put it in your book. No mitering on the waterfall pages, but we are going to miter on our belly band. And because our belly band is the same height as our book, we don't need to mat first. We can go ahead and just put this in, and our matting can slide right underneath it when you get to that point. So no issues there. I'm going to do my back inside cover first. I'm going to make sure I got my book turned correctly with my pages. The opening at the top of the pages at the top. If you don't want to do inserts, I don't seal these off typically because I want that flex as we build our page bases, and as you put things, like when you put your pictures, you know, whatever you're putting in your album, I like having that little bit of give with leaving those open. But if you want to seal them up, you can. Alright, so again, burnish from the middle out, middle out, middle out, and this is going to go on this outside edge on your back inside cover. My prototype album, which like I said, I don't typically do. I made this pocket way too deep and ended up like sticking a small like self-healing mat inside the pocket and then cutting it off, and I tried really hard. It's not totally straight, but that's okay because it's my prototype and nobody's going to see that one but me. Unless I get crazy and list it on my website for sale because it's all finished. I don't know. We'll see. I used an older paper for it from like 3 or 4 years ago. So it's not one that you can get, so there's really no point showing you. Alright, so there's that. I'm going to come to the other side. I'm going to grab our belly band, and we're going to fold and burnish, and fold and burnish, and we'll just center this on the front inside cover. If you're not, I mean, you can get out your ruler and get all crazy with, you know, measuring it and marking it and everything. I rarely do that unless it's something where it needs to be exact because of a page element or something. I don't even bother. I eyeball it and that's enough. Okay, so as you know, I like to assemble my waterfalls upside down, so my book is upside down. We're going to fold and burnish all of our tabs for our flaps on our waterfall. Like I said, there are 5 of these that are 5 by 7.5. Okay. All right. So we're going to start at the top. Pages are the same width as our belly band, so you don't have to worry about getting anything centered or matting something to start with. And it also helps make your waterfall go down nice and straight because you can visually see, is your flap on straight? Okay. Pull the first flap back, go ahead and add glue on our second one. Alright, so for this last flap, I'm not going to put it with bumped up against the one before it. I'm actually going to fold this back and put that tab on top of the one below it, or the one above it, that is. Like so. That way, you don't have that little tab hanging out underneath. So, when this one opens up, there's no tab. It's just, you mat this, you can put an entire full-size picture there. You don't have to worry about that little half-inch tab hanging out where you don't want it. Okay, so there we go. Moving on to the front of page 1, we are going to have an insert that is 6 by 8. There is no scoring on that. We're going to have several of these, so if you want to go ahead and cut them all at the beginning, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 6 by 8 inserts in the entire book, so if you want to just cut all of them at one time and set them aside and just pull them in as you need them, you can absolutely do that. Okay, so 6 by 8. You have 2 flaps that are 6.5 by 8. So with the 6.5 at the top, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch. And 1/2 inch. And then we have a pocket that is 2 3/8, I'm so sorry, by 11. I'm going to start with the 11-inch side and score at 1/2 inch. And at 10.5, turn to the 2 3/8 side and score at 1/2 inch again. Yes, I understand this is a very shallow pocket. This is going to close next to it, and then the insert's going to go in. So honestly, it's going to be fine. It's not going to matter. All right. So let's go ahead and miter. And miter. And then go across on the bottom of our pocket. This is a side-loading pocket in case you didn't know that yet. Okay, and then we're going to miter both of these flaps. Okay, so I'm going to take one of those flaps. We're just going to leave it as is for right now. I'm going to fold and burnish the tab on my other. And then I'm going to stack these together. I'm going to fold that tab over. So here's, let's fold both of them. Okay. So this will go in the book like so and open up. This one will attach on top and open up again. Okay. So you can see here we have our 2 tabs. Okay. One of them you are going to go ahead and glue, fold it over the end of the first one to attach the 2 together. Okay. So over, burnish it down, wipe up extra glue, up and burnish it again. And that's mostly to make sure it's lined up where I want it and to make sure I don't have any glue that's seeped out on the inside and is going to inadvertently glue this partially closed. Because I have literally done that on the prototype in like 3 different places on there. Okay, let's go ahead and fold and burnish our pocket. And again. Okay. Grab our book. This is going to go along the outside edge. And the reason for the weird measurement is we want this flap to close in front of this pocket, not over the pocket. Okay? So go ahead and burnish that down. And then we can take our other piece and adhere that centered on the opposite side. Center that up, burnish it down, bring it up, and burnish it again. And again, that's just to check to make sure you didn't get carried away with the glue and, you know, inadvertently glue something down. All right, so then this tucks in like so and holds the whole thing closed. All right, back side of page 1. Oh, this one's fun. Okay. So, back side of page 1, we have another 6x8 insert. Set that aside. We have a belly band that is 9 by 1 7/8. There is a reason. Okay. So at the 9 inch at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 8 1/2. You then have 8 pieces that are 4 by 4 1/2. The 4 1/2 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch, or if it's easier for you to hold it still like it is for me, and when I am not on camera, this is how I do it, I'm going to go 1/2 inch from this end, so that in that case would be 4 inches. Either way works, just so long as you're getting a 1/2 inch score mark on the 4 1/2 inch side. Okay, I did not pre-score any of this like I've been doing, just because I made a prototype, so I'm more confident that things are going to fit where I want them to fit. Okay, so go ahead and miter all of these little 4 by 4 1/2 flaps. Oh, and I just... That one was turned the wrong direction. It's fine, it's all getting matted over, so I'm just gonna miter it on the other end. I don't believe I just did that. Oh my god. I haven't done anything like that in a long time. Yeah, so there was my score line at the other end. So if you're gonna stack them to do this, make sure they're all stacked the same direction. You know, it's a pro tip there. I feel like I've been doing this for days because I made a prototype and I never do that. I normally sketch, cut, and adjust as I go, which is why I pre-score, because that's how I adjust as I go. All right, so those are all mitered. I'm gonna miter these. Ends on your belly band. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take 2 of your 4.5 by 4 inch flaps. You're going to fold and burnish, and you're going to attach just like we did with the flap on the first page. Okay, so stack them together and glue. Okay, brush that down, open it up to make sure you didn't squeeze glue out on the inside. Okay, so there's one assembly, and you're going to do this 3 more times. Okay. My one that, you know, got scored on both ends because I can't pay attention apparently. Oh my god. I've been in a design funk. That's probably not helping matters because I struggled with this project. I don't know why. I love how my prototype came out. I think you guys are going to love how this comes out. But man, I could not get my squirrels in a row. Okay, so that slid out. This will not slide out of there once everything's matted, I will say. Okay, all right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and fold over my second score line. This is the one we're gonna use to attach. Okay, this is going all the way up along your top edge of your page, all the way in your outside edge. Okay. Burnish that down and down. And this one is like slightly crooked. Of course, this is also the one I had to score a second time, so I'm not surprised. All right, the other one is going to go across from it. Okay, so I'm going to turn my book. I'm going to go ahead and get glue on my tab. And this is going to go all the way to the top edge again, all the way to the outside inside edge, the inside edge over here of the page. Okay, and again. All right, so these will fold in like so. Now, you're going to take your belly band. And your belly band is going to go right here. Your other 2 flap assemblies are going to go down here. So this belly band is going to sit in between your flaps, okay? So let's go ahead and do our other 2 flaps. And this is why it's important that you go all the way to that outside edge and all the way to the bottom. Okay. So you want to make sure everything's going to fit and fold it like you want it to. And that is why your belly band is 1/8 of an inch short of 2 inches. Because we want to make sure we have that little tiny hair of space between the top and bottom of those flaps and the top and bottom of the belly band. Okay, so, and you're probably going, okay, how does this close? This all gets held closed with that 6x8 insert. Why not magnets? Because by the time you get pictures in this, and I fully intend this year to actually get pictures in this, I say that now to force myself to actually follow through, for the record. Once you get the pictures in there, and the matting, and the magnets, I didn't want to run the risk of the magnets not holding. So I was like, how else can I do this? How else can I make these things stay closed? And what happens is this slides underneath here and holds that whole assembly closed, and it looks really cool when it's matted. So that should answer your question. All right, moving on to the front of page 2. I need a drink of water and a break really quick, and I will be right back. Okay, front of page 2. Move things, because I've cleaned up all of my little tiny pieces that are over there. Okay, front of page 2, we have 2 large flaps. So these are both 10 by 8.5. With the 8.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 5/8 of an inch. Okay. It's going to be the same on both pieces. Alright, you have a pocket that is 9 by 4.5. You want to cut this slightly under 9 inches because there are flaps closing over it on both sides, just to make sure that it fits and doesn't cause anything to like buckle out. Alright, so I cut it like a 1/16 of an inch short. You could go even an 1/8 of an inch short, so 8 7/8. It's entirely up to you. But with the 9 inch or close enough at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch, turn it to the opposite side because you're cutting it short, and 1/2 inch again, and then turn to the 4.5 inch side and score it 1/2 inch. Then we have a flap that is 5.5 by 8.5. With the 8.5 at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch and at 5/8. That is just to give yourself that little bit of room so that once you have pictures and inserts and things in here, you're not going to have a problem. Alright, so this one, front of page 2, before we do anything else, we are going to add ribbon. So, the ribbon, oh, you've got lots of ribbon, by the way, is going to go at the bottom and attach to the bottom edge of this flap. So I am going to take about, let's see here, we're going to go about 15 inches. Doesn't have to be exact. This is mostly for, you know, me being bow challenged. I don't want it too short, because I know me, I will absolutely cut it too short. In fact, I'm looking at this now and thinking I'm probably too short. We're gonna make it work. Okay. So this one I'm going to put, before I cut it in half or anything, I'm probably gonna have to cut another piece of this because I can tell by looking at it I'm not gonna be happy. I'm attaching this down here at the bottom, okay? Pocket, we're going to miter across the bottom like we do, miter at the top, both of our flaps we are also going to miter. I have them stacked together and they are both on the ends that are mitered, or I'm sorry, not mitered, that are scored, unlike what I did a minute ago. Alright, so, oh, we need to miter this one as well. So we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish our score lines on everything. So with those little 1/8 of an inch ones, okay, I'll fold my first one, fold my 5/8 inch, and then fold it back flat, so that when you put this in the book, you're gluing it in the right area, okay? I'm going to do that with this as well. Again, and with the 5/8, I actually just kind of do it with my fingers from the middle out. I don't necessarily do it with the bone folder because I don't know that it's really necessary, and it's really kind of hard to do with the bone folder. So I'll get my 1/2 inch, fold and burnish with the bone folder, and then I'll pop that little 5/8 over from the middle out and just kind of do it with my fingers. It's fine. And then maybe go over it. I don't know. The 5/8, I like it because it's just enough of a gusset that it's not a big deal. It doesn't like get smashed and ruin your whole project, but at the same time it also gives you that little bit of extra room. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and put these two in. These are, of course, going to the outside edges of your page base. They're the same height as your page, so you don't need to worry about getting anything centered. Just get them in the book. Okay. Other side. And that's why you want to flatten that 5/8 inch back out, because you don't want to think you're lining this up and gluing it down based on where that fold is, because then it's going to be too far in. Okay. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and turn it upside down and get our top flap. And that one, just center it close to center. It's like way to one side. There we go. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and do our pocket on the bottom. That I did not fold and burnish yet. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to fold my sides in first and burnish those down. Okay. And then I'm going to put this down in here. It's easier to do if you haven't folded your bottom one up yet. And make sure these close over the top without running into the pocket. And it looks like we're good. So then I'll go ahead and fold my bottom. Okay. Get the backing off of that. Go ahead and glue this in. Right, because it's trying to clog on me. Either that or I'm out of glue again. Because that's the other time when the glue press from My Sweet Petunia, I get asked all the time. It's the only other time I have an issue with it is when, like, it's getting low and then it's like it doesn't want to quite come out. Okay, push that down. Okay, so now you can pop your 5/8 gusset back out. All that you need to do that is fold it over and kind of push it back like that. So I'm pushing on here and then pushing it with my hand on the other side. Okay, this folds down over the top, and then this, well, maybe we're okay, is going to go on the bottom of that flap, the other end of our ribbon. So I'm leaving it together for now until I can get this tacked down, and then I will pull this straight up and then cut it in half, and then we'll see if I left myself enough ribbon to tie a decent bow with my little bow challenged fat fingers. I am not happy with my bow. Okay, so I think the bottom, I don't know. We're gonna make it work. I don't want to pull this apart to pull that out. I think it'll be fine. I think it's just, this is absolutely a me problem. This is not something that happens to everybody else. This literally is me every single time because I cannot tie a decent bow to save my life. All right, back side of page 2. Moving on. All right, back side of page 2, we've got some more kind of fun flaps on this one. Excuse me, I still didn't drink enough water either when I took my little break there. All right, so we have, why do I have 2 of these? Oh, never mind, that's why, it's fine. All right, we have a flap that is 10 3/4 by 6. With the 10 3/4 at the top, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch, and at 3/4, we have got, something seems wrong. I don't think it is. I think it's because I changed this. Okay, 2 pieces, 6 by 8.5. With the 8.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch, and at 4.5. So 1/2 inch and 4.5. And I'm making a couple of piles over here. All right. Then I have 2 pieces that are 4.5 by 6. The 4.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch on both pieces. Then I have 2 pieces that are 4 by 8.5. Score 1/2 inch and 4.5. And then I have 2 pieces that are 4 by 4.5. With the 4.5 at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. And 1/2 inch. Okay. So let's go ahead. Move that. I'm going to miter our flap. Okay. And then I'm going to take my first 2 4 by 8.5 and 4 by 4.5 pieces. Excuse me. Excuse me again. I'm going to miter these. Okay. I'm going to take my little 4.5 piece, fold and burnish. I'm going to take my 8.5 piece. I'm going to fold and burnish. You're going to attach this one like so. Okay. This one is going to fold back the other direction. So we're going to have a little pull out. That goes like so. Okay. So you're going to stack it with your tabs like so. This shorter piece going up against the bottom of that tab on the longer piece. Okay, folding it over, burnishing it down, and opening it back up to make sure we did not accidentally have glue seep out on the other side. Okay, I'm going to do that with my other one. And we're going to do the same thing with our bigger ones. So, small tab, small piece, big piece. And then, so typically when you score and fold, you're scoring towards, or you're folding towards the bumpy side. So you fold it that direction and then fold it back the other way. Make sure I'm lined up side to side and burnish it down. Okay, so again, small one on top. However you do this, so you get a Z fold flap, accordion fold flap, whatever, whichever way you want to call it. You know what I mean. Okay. All right, so there's that. We're going to do the same thing on these other two. Same process. Again, small flap on top of the large flap. Put that over and burnish it down. I am either out of glue, which it kind of looks like I'm almost out of glue. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this other one put together, and then I will pause really quickly and refill that, and then we'll put it in. Okay, so fold and burnish, fold and burnish. Alright, so yeah, for whatever reason it doesn't seem to squeeze quite hard enough when it's running low. Which, even if you don't buy the glue press, the refill bottles for it, or the empty bottles that you can buy for it, they come in a 2-pack. They have the slightly bigger tip and then the really fine tip. Honestly, like, ergonomically are really good even without the press. So that's just my little 2 cents for today. Okay, set those aside. I'm going to go ahead and fill this, and I will be right back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish our large flap. Okay, and then I'm just going to take this one out for now because it keeps falling out of there. Alright, back side of page 2. Okay, I'm going to turn this sideways. I'm going to take one of my 4x4 flap assemblies, put glue on the tab, and it's going to go all the way to the top, all the way to the outside edge. Okay. And then I'm going to grab one of my 4x6, and that's going to go below. Okay. So that one's going to sit down here. And this is where you're going to want to make sure everything has gone in here straight, everything is lined up. If you need to trim just a hair off the height on this, go ahead and do it. Like, lay it on here before you actually glue it and make sure it fits. And do the other side. Okay, so I'm turning it to the other side. This time the 4 inch is going to go on the bottom and the 6 inch is going to go on the top. so that it's opposite of the other side. Now, if they slightly overlap in the middle, that's fine. It's not a big deal. Ultimately, it's not going to matter. Okay. And then this one, make sure where they sit side by side is more important than if they overlap slightly in the center. Okay. Because chances are they will overlap just a little bit in the middle. All right, and so then I'm going to turn it upside down, and we're going to put our large flap at the top. Again, you're going to flatten out your gusset for now so that when you're gluing this down, you're gluing it where it actually needs to go. And center that up. Alright, so then these are going to fold in. Fold in, and then this folds down over the top. I didn't put a ribbon closure on this because by the time this is matted and you add one of the chipboard frames on the front of this, it's going to be heavy enough, it's going to stay down. Okay? If you wanted to add ribbon, you should have enough extra that you could absolutely add a little ribbon closure at the bottom of this, and that would be fine. Okay, front of page 3. So the front of page 3, very simple. We've got flaps and pockets. Nothing fancy. We do have another 6x8 insert, so set that aside. Alright, so flap at the top is going to be 7x5. The 5" at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And then we're going to have stacked pockets. The first one is going to be 9x6. With the 9 inches at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch, and at 8.5. Turn to the 6-inch side and score at 1/2 inch. The next pocket is going to be 9x4. With the 9 inch at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And at 8.5, turn to the 4-inch side and score at 1/2 inch again. And then we'll go ahead and miter these like always. So across the score lines at the bottom. And then at the top. Okay, and we're going to miter on our little flap. So the flap will not run into the top of the larger pocket, so we don't need a gusset or anything on this one. And really, the insert on this one isn't necessary, but I liked it. It gives you another spot for a couple of big pictures or a collage of small pictures, and it just works. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do our bottom pocket. And our top pocket. I'm going to burnish everything. And then I'm actually going to put my top pocket on top of my bottom pocket before I put the whole thing in the book. Just to make sure everything matches up as far as the width goes. And I think sometimes it's actually just easier. Now, if you are someone who builds your entire page and mats and decorates and everything before, or mats it before you put it in the book, go ahead. Every time I do that, I end up with something upside down or something that doesn't work or whatever, so I typically do not do that. But I know there are a lot of you that do. I've done it on some projects, but typically speaking, I don't do that. Now, I have occasionally put all of the elements on a page before putting it in the book, and I debated about doing it with this one and ultimately decided I would rather just do it the way I normally do it. So there you go. But occasionally I will build an element in its entirety before I put it in the book, because sometimes it's just easier. Okay. Turn it upside down and go ahead and put our flap at the top. It is not as wide as the page, so you're just going to center it up. As close to center as you can get. Doesn't have to be perfect. And that just sits right there, and then this goes in like so. Okay? There we go. Okay, back side of page 3. This one is kind of fun, and this is about the only one where you are going to want to mat before you put this last little piece on. I am not going to do that on camera because I don't know what I want to mat with on this one yet. So just know that we're going to go ahead and get this ready, but you're not going to put it on yet. You're just going to paper clip it back to your page and do it later on when you're matting. Okay? Alright, so first up we have a belly band that is 11 by 3. With the 11 inches at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 10.5. We have 2 flaps that are 5.5 by 7. With the 5.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch on both of these. Okay. You have 2 flaps that are 10 by 4 5/8. With the 4 5/8 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 5/8 on both of those. So again, 1/2 inch, 5/8, and then we have another 6 by 8 insert. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of my mitering. There's our 2 tall flaps with the 1/8 inch gusset. Our 2 smaller 5 by 7, well, finished size 5 by 7. And then, of course, the belly band. So I'm going to miter that. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and put our belly band in first. So I'm just going to fold and burnish. Actually, I'm going to fold and burnish everything because I hate going back and forth like that. Okay, so there's our shorter flaps. And the longer ones, and again, you're going to fold your 1/2 inch. And then your 1/8. And then fold it flat again. Okay, so I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put my belly band in first. And just center that up as close to center as you can get. Or, you know, if you want to get all professional and, you know, measure it and mark it and all that, go right ahead. I'm going to turn to the inside for my first of the large flaps. And that's going to go on the outside edge and then outside, inside. Why do I keep saying that? What is wrong with me today? Oh my lord. And then the other one, go to the outside, on the outside, There we go. We'll just be weird all the way around. How about that? No, let's not do that. That's just one of those things that I question. Why am I doing this? Why does anybody listen to me? Anyway, okay. And then these just go centered like so. Okay. Make sure you don't glue it to your 1/8 inch gusset. Make sure you're gluing it inside of that. And just center it up. They will overlap in the middle, that's fine. Make sure you don't do what I just did there, where to burnish it and it slid. Okay. Other side. And then just so that I get these lined up exactly across from each other, I will fold that other side back in so I can get this placed where they overlap exactly. Okay. So now go ahead and pop your 1/8 inch gussets back out. And then your little tuck spot that's going to go back down here at the bottom. This is 7 inches by 1 inch. When you go to put it on, you're just going to cut it in half at 3.5 inches and put 1/2 at the bottom of each side of this flap. And then this tucks in to hold everything closed. So I'm going to paper clip that to the front there. Set my books upside down, so not that it matters. At this point I haven't actually glued that, but just so that it makes sense. There we go. All right. Front of page 4. You're in the home stretch here, you guys. I promise. Front of page 4. We have got more tall flaps. We have another 6x8 insert. Set it aside. We have flaps and flaps and pockets. So, let me grab my scoreboard again. Alright, so first set are the same size as the other page, so 4 5/8 by 10. 4 5/8 at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch, and again at 5/8 we're having that 1/8 inch gusset again. So 1/2, 5/8. We have 2 pieces that are, what is this one? Oh, it's a pocket. Okay, we have a pocket that is 8 7/8 by 4. 8 7/8 at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. Turn it to the opposite side, and 1/2 inch again. Then turn to the 4-inch side and 1/2 inch. I was like, what is this piece? And then I have 2 pieces that are 6.5 by 4. The 6.5 at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. And then you have a piece that is 5 by 5. This is going to be diagonal pockets. So you're going to score it 1/2 inch on each side. So 1/2 inch, turn it, 1/2 inch again, turn it, 1/2 inch again, turn, and 1/2 inch. Okay. Now, I'm going to grab my trimmer. You're going to take a little 5 by 5 piece. You're going to line your corners up in the track on your trimmer and cut this in half. Okay? Like so. Now, you're then going to take your scissors. You're going to miter very aggressively on the pointed ends down here, and then across the bottom where the score lines cross. Okay? Alright. And then we're going to miter all of our other pieces just like normal. So these are the 4 by 6.5 inch. The pocket, so miter at the top, and then at the bottom, where the score lines cross. What I did there with my scissors moved. And that was not right. It did not feel right. But that's okay. Alright. And then we're going to do our other one. Alright, let's get all of those little pieces off to the side. Okay, so first up, let's go ahead and fold and burnish our tabs on our tall flaps, and then get your little gusset in there, and then push it back. Okay. And back. Get our pocket. And then on our little diagonal pieces. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tall flaps, I'm going to set them like they'll go in the book, so when they open, so my tabs are facing out. And we're going to go ahead and put these on before we put this in the book. It'll just be easier. Okay. So, this is going to go at the bottom. Should go right up against the edge of the gusset. So you can see, there's the edge of my pocket. There is my gusset. So when this is folded all the way over, it's at the edge of the pocket, okay? Oops. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So let's go ahead, bring our book in. We're going to go ahead and put the inside flap on first, going to the edge of the inside edge of the page face. That makes more sense. That's what I normally say, isn't it? It's been a long day. It's 4 o'clock now. I've been down here since like 8 o'clock. Outside edge. Okay. Alright, so then I'm going to open this up. The little 6-inch flaps are just going to go, actually let's do the pocket first. Because initially I had more flaps under here and it was like, it was too much. I didn't love it. So this is going to go in the middle here. Oh, maybe that's why this one was short, because I don't think, oh my god, am I even like lined up in the right place? No. Oh my lord. I think initially I didn't have, was this the one I didn't initially have the gussets on, or was that this one? I think it was that one. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway, it's fine. Doesn't matter. Okay, so then these, you can either put them side by side, coming down from the top. Okay, or you can do them this way. I'm going to have mine coming in from the sides. So I'm just going to center that in here. It's just, you know, another fun place to put a picture, put a journaling spot, you know, whatever. Okay, and of course, like so. Okay. Backside of page 4 is another kind of fun one, I thought. So we have flaps and pockets, and I think we have ribbon. Do we have ribbon on this one? I'm imagining things. No, this one has another insert. Of course it does. So we have another 6x8. Set it to the side. I can't remember how I did this exactly. I literally just did this 2 days ago. So, all right. So we're going to have a normal pocket, and we're going to have like a tuck spot pocket. Okay. Tuck spot pocket is going to be 11 by 1 7/8. The 11 inches at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch and 10.5, and that's it. When this one actually goes down as a pocket, we're just going to glue the bottom edge of this flat. Okay. The next pocket is 11 by 5.5. The 11 inches at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch and 10.5. Turn to our 5.5 inch side and score it 1/2 inch again. We have a flap that is 8 by 6.5. We're going to score this one at 1/2 inch on the 6.5 inch side. We have a flap that is 4.5 by 6. With the 4.5 at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. And then you have one that is 4 by 3.5. With 3.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. So let's go ahead and do all of our mitering. Pocket, that is the big pocket, and our tuck pocket. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our pocket itself first. We're going to go ahead and put this one on top before we actually put this in the book. Okay, so I'm going to get glue on my ends, and then I'm going to get glue along the bottom. Okay, I'm going to turn this. I'm going to pay attention to where my score line actually is on the bottom, and then just go ahead and put that down. Okay. Once it's down, then we can go ahead and fold and burnish. It'll just be easier to glue that one on while it's flat. Okay. This is going to go to the inside edge on the front of page 4. Or I'm sorry, the back of page 4. here. Go ahead and burnish that down. And leave a gluey fingerprint because, you know, that's apparently how this is going to go today. It's fine, really, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'll let that sit while we put this together. So this one will open out. Okay, so let's go ahead and fold and burnish. Okay, so this opens out. The next little flap is going to go centered on the outside edge, so when it's open, this one will go out this way, and then the next one will go out from this one. Okay, so I'm just going to center this on here, burnish it down, and then fold and burnish this one and do the same thing. Now, you also may have noticed I didn't corner around anything. If you would like to corner around, by all means do so. I don't think I'm going to on this project. I might change my mind. I might, when I go to start matting this, go back through and corner around, but for now, I'm fine with it not rounded. Okay, so we're going to fold all that up, and that is going to go centered over here. Up. And there we go. And then our little insert again tucks in like so, keeping everything nice and snug. Alright, this one's super easy, like ridiculously easy. Alright, we have a piece that is 9 by 12. We're going to make a self-contained pocket that will go down glued on 3 sides so that it has a tuck spot in the back. So with the 9 inches at the top, you're going to score this at 1/2 inch and 8.5. You're going to turn it to the 12-inch side. You're going to score it 4 inches and 9 inches. Okay. So to make this part easier, to make sure you don't like cut the wrong thing, our little 3-inch part up here, I'm just going to write on here very lightly with a pencil because it's going to get matted. It's not going to matter. I'm going to write flap. So I know this is my flap. Okay. I'm going to take this down here at the bottom and I'm going to miter. Okay. So there's our flap piece. There's the bottom part that's going to fold up to be the pocket. And I'm going to do the same right there. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do, because I can do this much easier with this trimmer, with the nice little guide wire in there, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to line my guide wire up on top of my score line here. Okay, so there's my score line. My guide wire is now on top of it. I'm going to cut down to this score line. Okay, so when I open this back up, that little piece you can throw away. Okay, same thing on the other side. Okay. Oh my gosh, again, I don't know what is causing this today, but there we go. Okay, so again, we're going to trim up to that score line. You should feel when it hits where you mitered, okay? Okay, that is literally all there is to it. Miter again. And again. Thought about making this one into a little accordion pocket, and you absolutely could, but ultimately decided I didn't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to fold this over and burnish it down. and then we're going to glue. Closed like so, and there's your pocket assembly. I'm going to go ahead and add ribbon on this one. I'm going to add more ribbon than I probably need because, you know, I can't tie a bow to save my life. So it's going to go on the top of the flap, and then I'm going to put it on the back bottom side of the pocket itself. See, now I got really carried away. I know I did, and it's fine. You have more than enough ribbon. You'll be fine. Okay. I'm going to put that close to the bottom where my glue is going to end up going. Okay. And then I can lift this up, trim it, and tie it shut. Now, this page is the only place where it's probably going to be best if you do mat this. You do not need to mat the entire page. You just need to mat down so it goes slightly behind the pocket. If you are not ready to mat yet, like I am not, I'm only going to glue part way up on the sides, okay? So, across the bottom here. I'm going to glue on my sides. I'm not going to go all the way up so that I can slide my matting part way down underneath this, and then I can glue the top part of this down after I've matted. Okay? So this is leaving this open at the top so that you can tuck photo mats and pictures and things in there. And we are on the last page. How about that? All right, this one is, again, very straightforward. There's nothing fancy on this one. Okay, so we have a pocket that is 11 it's supposed to be 11. Clearly I didn't cut mine down. Okay, so let me trim that. I think because I lost it, I don't know. I did something weird when I was like getting everything cut. Okay, 11 by 4.5 with the 11 at the top. You're going to score it 1/2 inch and 10.5. Turn to the 4.5 side. Score it 1/2 inch again. We have a waterfall that will go on top of this pocket. So I have 5 pieces that are 4 by 6.5. So the 6.5 at the top, I'm going to score. Because this is a waterfall, they do not get mitered. Okay, camera. Apparently, memory card was full, so it shut off. But thankfully, I noticed it shut off this time, unlike other times where I have not noticed that it shut off, because that's apparently a thing now. Anyway, waterfall, 6.5 by 4. The 6.5 at the top, we're scoring each of these at 1/2 inch. There are 5 total. Okay, and then we have 2 flaps that are 6 by 10. You're going to score those with the 6 inches at the top at 1/2 inch. These are going to overlap. We are going to use ribbon. So, all right, let's set those aside. Actually, no, let's miter those really quickly. Okay, and waterfall flaps do not get mitered. Go ahead and miter our pocket. Okay, so let's go ahead and fold and burnish our waterfall pages. All right, so this pocket is going to open this direction, so towards the back of the book. So I'm going to turn it upside down. We're going to go ahead and build our waterfall on this before we put it in the book, just because this thing has gotten onto the chunky side, as expected, and I don't want to try and assemble this with it in the book already and have it like not go in right. Okay, so we're just doing this the way we normally do a waterfall because it's the same width as the finished width of our pocket. It's an easy enough one to get everything nice and straight, which is literally why I do that. Because it just makes it easier. You don't get as frustrated with your waterfall because you have a visual reference to help keep everything nice and straight. So, okay. And then, like I like to do on the last tab, we are not going to attach it where you still have that little tab showing. We're going to bend it back the other direction and put it on top of the tab before it. Okay. Except, damn, okay, we're going to have to adapt part of this, but it'll be fine. We were actually supposed to put this in, put the flap on it, and then put the waterfall in. But you know what, it's fine. We're going to just make a slight adjustment and everything will work out just the way I want it to. It'll be fine. Okay. So let's go ahead and get our ribbon in. I'm going to grab my tape, grab my ribbon. We're going to get to the outside edge over here. And then we're going to leave this really long because we have enough ribbon to do so. Okay. And we'll get this one down on the other side. And then we can, of course, trim it in half and apparently really get the end of our ribbon yucky while we do it. Okay, so this side we are going to leave the pocket as is with no gusset. We are going to add a gusset to the side that's going where the pocket is. And before I had done it on my prototype and I totally spaced it. Then I put the pocket in, put the flap on top of the pocket, attached it to the outside edge of the pocket, and then did the waterfall where it wasn't an issue. But I did not think about that as I was doing that, so it's fine. We will adapt. So since they overlap, it's not really going to matter. So we are going to put in, so 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this the other direction and put our pocket in. I'm sorry, put our flap on, and we'll put our pocket in. So again, flatten out your gusset, preferably all the way, not just part way like I just did there. And we're going to put that down over here. that up, and then we'll put the pocket underneath. So that actually works just fine to do it that way, because these overlap and it doesn't matter which one goes down first. Makes no difference. We'll go ahead and tie this, and that is it for the construction. Now, we don't have any fancy matting or anything I need to show you on matting that's done differently than you would mat a normal album. So I don't have anything to show you there. I will be back to show you how we're going to use the frames to make shakers. So I will be back momentarily with that. Okay, so at this point I am matted. I have not done anything, well, I've done one semi-fancy thing. So on this page that has the flaps that come out, what I did is I did that Santa piece broken up down that side so that one little strip is on the belly band, and then actually the piece that got cut off at the top, I think it is, that has this little like receipt paper, I just did that next to it just because I thought that would be kind of fun. Absolutely don't have to do that. I just thought that was kind of neat. So the one not weird matting that I want to show you is how I'm going to do this waterfall. So I have this little piece left from, I don't even remember, I think it's the back side of, this is on the back side, okay, or well, this one, this is actually the 6x8. Okay, so what I want to do on this waterfall is I want to take this guy and I want to use this to mat the waterfall. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is cut this to 3 7/8. Okay, and then I'm going to cut to 5 7/8. Okay, so that's going to be my first piece. I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to cut 1/2 inch. So one, you'll see here in just a second, I'm laying them over there so I keep them in order. 2, 3, 4, and then this piece will just go on the bottom. So what I'm going to have is this. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this guy on. Okay. His next one, because of course I managed to bump them and they're out of order now. It's going right there. So this will go slightly up underneath the flap before it. And when I say slightly, we're talking like maybe a 32nd of an inch. Okay. And that one's not the right one. Ha ha ha. Thankfully I caught it before it got dry. Okay, it's actually this guy. Don't be like me, like glue them as you cut them so that you know you're putting them in the right place, because as it is, I have already had to do surgery because I forgot my tie closure. I did something funky with this page. It has just not been my night for this. But you know what? It happens sometimes. And almost every mistake is fixable. Okay, so that, where is it, this that one and then this one. Okay. Excuse me. All of a sudden, the second I turn the camera on, all of a sudden my throat is dry. And I was fine, like 5 minutes ago. Okay. Excuse me again. Oh my gosh. Last one. And then what I will do in this area and above those little pieces on each one of the flaps. So see, when he's closed, you still have your really cute image. You can go ahead and put white photo mats here. You can leave it in preparation for whatever pictures you're actually going to put in. That's kind of the thing when it comes to photo mats. You don't have to put them in there if you don't want to. Okay, so that is matted, other than my photo mats, because I'll come back and do those. That's not a big deal. I can find them all now, because apparently my whole little pile of them got dropped. Okay, so we have our little inserts like this, okay? They all have that little hole over here on the side. So, a couple of things you can do. You will have scraps of black cardstock. So let me find a longer one. Actually, that one should work. So what you could do, you could score this. I'm just going to use my trimmer here. You could score this, wrap that around the front, and make it into like a little booklet. So like this one's not a good example. Like this one, and then this one, you really can't cut the edges off without losing part of what's on there. You could treat them kind of as tags. You could use some of your extra green ribbon to tie in there and just tuck them into spots. The other ones, like this one, because these are heavy. These are a little bit heavier than your cardstock, or not your cardstock, your pattern paper. So what I would do, honestly, is just, like in this case, just trim that off. You really could use this, like this could have actually gone on that front page of my waterfall in the front of the book. This one in particular, I want to trim that off. You know what? I don't want this trimmer because I'm going to totally screw this up. I can tell right now that it is going to get a mess and I'm going to be mad. Aha, there we go. The Fisker's Guide Wire to the rescue. Okay, so I'm just trimming that off, and I've got this cute little calendar that I can stick into the front of my book. Or I can put it at the end of my book. You can put it, I'm actually going to open this up, tuck this under here, tuck this in on top, and then I've got that in there to add. I could add that as a mat. So that's what I'll do with all of these full-size ones, is I will just trim that edge off. That one will work. That one will work. This one will be kind of, and this one will be fine too. This one, so what you could do, oh, do I still have, what did I do with those? Okay, I used to have like, I think they're actually like for luggage tags, but they're kind of flexible and they're small and they're not like a normal binder ring. I'm going to look for those and see if I can find them and maybe stick some of them in your kit. Because what you could do with this little grouping of them, so the ones that you can't really cut the sides off, like this little pocket one, you could do this with just your ribbon. And I don't know what I would do with mine, because I did end up pulling my ribbon off of the one page that I totally jacked up in the tutorial. You could just do it with your ribbon and it would be cute, and then it would stay nice and flat. You could add some of your scraps in here as far as your cardstock scraps, your, you know, patterned paper pieces and whatnot, and kind of build like a little, you know, kind of mini folio type thing. If I could get this on here. It's been a really long, it's like, how is it Tuesday? It feels like it should be Friday, because that's literally how bad my week has been. It's just been one thing after another this week. Excuse me. So you get the basic idea here. Do something like that. Tie that off, not super tight. See if I'm not trying to tie bows. I can actually tie stuff. How about that? Something like that. Actually, that would work really well. So I gotta figure out where my other scraps from this ribbon are and do that. And you could add in more cardstock, and then this literally can tuck in pretty much anywhere. You could do this with all of them if you wanted to. That would tuck in anywhere you've got a 6x8 tuck. You could absolutely put those in. So like back here, it would be perfect. Actually, that's where mine's gonna go. Is right in there, in that middle section. And that will be perfect. Okay, I still need to decorate. I will be back to show you how we're going to do our shaker. If you choose to do your shaker. If you don't, that is up to you. But we are going to use, I'm not positive yet, for the cover it's most likely going to be this one. So, but I got to find my foam tape, because that is not where I thought it was. But I will come back and we'll go through this. Okay, so let's talk about the shakers. Shaker, if you only want to do one, two if you want to do, however many you decide you want to do. This is the one that's going on my cover. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take that, I'm going to line up edges. So I've got this corner lined up on the edge here, this corner lined up on the edge down here, and I'm going to trace this. Because we are going to assemble this in such a way that you'll be able to put a picture behind the shaker. So the shaker will be kind of self-contained and the picture will sit behind it. Okay, that makes sense. So there's my shape. I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors, and when I cut this out, I'm going to go just in from my lines. Okay. This way we don't have to worry about it hanging over the side. Actually, I'm going to do this from this side first, then get the whole thing cut out. So you can see just maybe right there. Can you kind of see my pencil line? It's really hard to see on that paper, I apologize. But I am cutting just inside that line. And then down here where the like the tree and whatnot are, So there you can see that I'm just inside that edge, okay? I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take my acetate, and really the no, we do want to do it this, well, hold on, let me think for a second, because, yes, we do want to do it this way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this over so I don't accidentally get, not that you'd see it, but just to be safe, I'm gonna do it from this side. And that's exactly why, because I'm just gonna trace this that I just cut with my Sharpie. Because we need two pieces like this, okay? So there's my backing. I'm going to take this, and again, I'm going to go just ever so slightly to the inside of my line that I traced. We can always adjust this if we need to. You can also, actually, yeah, that would have worked too. As long as you have traced and cut your cardstock piece first, you'll be fine. The other way to do this would be apparently I'm incapable of cutting this out and talking at the same time, would be to cut this piece, adhere this down on your acetate, and then cut around it, and then trace it out a second time and cut the second one. I think the way I'm doing this is going to be a little bit easier. So with this one, I'm going to, let's not do that. I'm just going to hold it on here, and I'm going to cut out my second one. And like I said, you don't have to do this. You could absolutely just make this into a shaker. Put your picture in it before you make it into a shaker. Since I have no clue, since, you know, it's October, I don't know what pictures I'm going to have. If you're using this for a prior year, then you probably do know which pictures you have. I would hope. And again, maybe you're more like me, you just like making the stuff, and if it gets used, it gets used, and if it doesn't, that's okay too. Because you had the joy of making the project. I know, it's totally cheesy, but it's literally how I do these typically. Okay. Alright, so now what we're going to do, we're going to take our frame, and I'm going to take the piece that still has a little bit of that Sharpie on there, turn it the right direction first off. I'm going to take score tape, wherever my tape went, I'm going to go around the outside edge of the frame, okay? And since we're not worried about getting the frame, like leaving, you know, where you could put pictures in on this section of it, I am going to go down the middle just like that to make sure we have, and that's exactly why, because as much as I love these things, man, do not, they do like to tear like that. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to go ahead, get my backing off of my tape. Get the backing off. I know, this is so exciting, isn't it? When you try to get the backing off the tape, because this is not score tape, this is the 1/4 inch from scrapbook.com, because the other night when I ran out of tape, I couldn't find my normal stuff. I have since found it, but I'm like, okay, let's just use this roll so that it is gone. And man, it just, it's not the same. Okay, so I'm going to line this up on the back here and put it down. And if you have anywhere that's hanging off, just come in and trim, but we should be good. I'm going to go ahead and burnish that down. Okay, so now you're going to take your foam tape that came in your kit. Because of how we're doing this, you did get a roll of foam tape this time. Of course, you can still use it for, you know, popping up your elements and stuff when you're decorating your book. It just means you have to trim it, as opposed to it being the nice little pre-cut squares, which I so love. But what we are going to do is we are going to go like so. And just to kind of say, the biggest thing is to make sure the edges of your score tape are right up against each other, okay? You do not want any gaps. So like when you're getting to an edge like that, let it kind of hang over and then trim it off, okay? Don't do it like I just did that. It has to go right up against the piece that it's going next to. Otherwise, you will have shaker fill everywhere. So like right here, where I'm getting to an end and I need them to overlap. I'm not going to try and cut right there. I'm going to cut just slightly past that point. And that was more than slightly, so that one didn't work. Basically where I can kind of tuck this down in there next to the piece it's going next to. Next to the piece it's going next to. I'm telling you guys, some days I should not be allowed to do this. Okay, and then this one, it's going like so. All right, you're going to take your backing off all the way around and add one more row to make sure that our shaker pieces are going to move. And of course, the second time around, it's much easier. However, I will say, this time around, go over your seams as opposed to stacking things up next to each other, if that makes sense. Okay, so like right there, I've got two pieces that are bumped up together. So this piece I'm going to start so it goes across that seam, and I'm going to bring it down here like so. Same thing on this side. Basically, you're just reinforcing over that seam. Okay. That one's hanging over my edge just slightly. Okay. And one more. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do, and this isn't necessary, and sometimes it works better than other times. It's up to you. I am going to take a powder tool of some kind, and I am going to very lightly kind of go along the inside edge of that foam tape, just to try to lessen the chances that I'm going to have my shaker fill sticking to my foam tape. Okay? Make sure your backing is still on when you do that part. Okay. Let's throw it across the table while we're at it. Okay, so I'm going to open that up. I'm going to turn where you got your little sticky piece, fold it back out of the way, and then put in however much you think you want in that particular frame. Some more of those over there. I may not include the second one. I don't know. I wasn't sure which way I wanted to do this. And I was worried that you weren't going to have quite enough, but I think we're going to be okay. All right. It gives you options. It doesn't exactly go with some of my other stuff that I'm doing for Christmas, so I can't throw it in another kit. This one anyway. The other one I could. Okay. Then you're going to take your other acrylic piece, and that's going to go on the back. Okay. So again, so now we've got our shaker. Again, take a look if you've got any acrylic hanging over, which you probably will, just trim it off. Okay. And then what we're going to do here, okay, so here's our back. We're going to take this piece. We are only going to attach this on 3 sides. We're going to leave that top open so that you can go ahead and slide pictures down in there. Okay. So I'm going to go like that, and like that. Like this. Get this lined up about where I want it. And go ahead and get your backing off. And then you'll be able to slip your picture in the back and still have your little shaker element on the front. Okay? All right, so that is ready to go on the front of the album. The one for the inside, and I'm still kind of on the fence as to which one I'm actually, where to go, which one I'm using. I believe it's going to be this one. You're going to, if you want to be able to put a picture in there, you're going to do the same thing. Otherwise, you'll just cut it to the same size as the front of the frame, build your shaker, fill it, and then just to give it some contrast so you're not just seeing the back side of your your paper through that. Hold on. Sorry, I've had like pieces sitting on the cover of this thing all day long while I was debating about what I was actually going to end up using. So it's kind of a mess. Okay, so back here. So this is the other place where I intended on using frames, and it's entirely up to you. If you don't want to make this into a shaker to go on this part, you absolutely do not have to. So I'm honestly not sure which one I'm going to use, if I'm going to just use other ephemera around it. I'm kind of leaning towards this one, in which case I could go ahead and do the same thing and not do this little backing piece and then just attach it on 3 sides. But you know what, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do that together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the same way by prepping my frame with the tape. This one's going to be much easier because it is, you know, a basic square that we're doing as opposed to that double frame. Okay, so that's good. Go ahead and pop my tape off of this. Or the backing off. You guys know what I mean. I have been saying that wrong for like the last 8 years that I've been doing tutorials. At this point, I think it's pretty hopeless. Okay, I'm going to just rough cut my square for this because it is a square. It doesn't need to be like perfect on the back side because literally nobody's going to see this part of it. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to do my same process with matting. I'm sorry, not matting. Building the well for your shaker mix. Okay. Backing off. And then again, as I go around this time, I'm going to reinforce where my seams are with my foam tape. Done one this way in a while, it feels like. It's like the bubble shaker that was on the summer album was cut into the chipboard, so it was a little bit different. Okay, I'm going to do the same little powder trick again. Okay, and then where's my rest of my shaker stuff? Might as well just put that last little bit in there. Okay. Little trees and little candy canes and jewels and things. It's very cute. Okay. So then I'm going to kind of eyeball about how much of this I need. gem trying to escape there. Okay, so then all I'm going to do with this is go around the outside edge with my tape. And then the top is open to slip a picture underneath your shaker. And then that will just sit on, help if you could actually see it, huh? So that will just sit on there. If I decide to do a photo mat underneath it, I can still do that. That's not a problem. But that's how that one will go in there.